Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're going to be jumping down into the world of Chainlink and going to be talking specifically about why I think owning as much Chainlink as possible, approximately around 1,000 if you can, could potentially be life-changing further down the line. Now it's probably worth noting I'm not a financial advisor. I cannot give you financial advice. All I can do is give you my thoughts and opinions on the kind of data and the charts and kind of what I think is going on in the crypto world. And it's important that you kind of do consult your own financial advisor if you have one, and you should treat this as educational and for entertainment purposes only. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will stay up to date with all the videos that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And if you haven't yet joined us down in Discord, you should go check that out, linked in the description down below. Let's go dive right down into this one, right? So Chainlink is an Oracle protocol. Okay, so just talk a little bit about the fundamentals to start with, right? So as an Oracle protocol, what essentially Chainlink does is it takes your off-chain data and brings it on-chain. Now, for those of you who are familiar, basically blockchain technology is supposed to be immutable. Essentially, it is what it is, and it can't be edited or altered after the fact, right? It goes into a ledger and basically everything is transparent and can be seen. Now, there's lots of different kind of protocols. Some protocols will mask those transactions. They call that blinding and zero knowledge and all that kind of stuff. And there's a whole host of different things that can be done with that kind of technology. But for the nuts and bolts of it, if we just think about blockchain technology as something that is immutable, something that keeps a record and a log of every transaction, and it is binary. It's true or it's false. It's essentially, very, very simple stuff. Now, this means that essentially as soon as it goes on chain, it is what it is, the truth, right? It is a single kind of version of the truth essentially out there, which is why you need to have a decentralized network of validators and all that kind of stuff. Now, oracles, they are designed to bring in real world data, off-chain data, and bring it on-chain. And this isn't necessarily an easy thing to do, because where do you get that information from? And you're going to be bringing in some fake information and putting it into an immutable system and so forth, right? And it can be a little bit complex. So bringing real-world off-chain data on-chain is something that has to be done with great caution and has to be verified and all that kind of stuff. And that's really where Chainlink comes in. So Chainlink basically brings in off-chain data and it puts it on-chain. Now, Chainlink is probably going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Oracle provider for blockchain technology. They obviously do run their own system. They have their Link, which is their native token, and is used to basically buy real-world data for various different kind of protocols that are being built in the crypto space, in the blockchain technology. So basically, Chainlink, they have well over 1,000 integrations across pretty much most protocols. If you've heard of the protocols, they've probably got a Chainlink integration. This is fantastic stuff when it comes to, let's just take an example, DeFi, where you need to bring in price feed information from the real world and put it on chain, right? You need to be able to transact and stuff like that. Well, in which case, an Oracle like Chainlink is going to be able to provide that information. It goes above and beyond that, though, if you were to think about lots of other things that could be utilized from the off-chain world on-chain, such as weather data and a whole host of various different things. And that's essentially what Chainlink does. It brings that data off-chain, from off-chain to on-chain. Now, with over 1,000 integrations, it's probably one of the absolute beasts of the crypto space, and it is going to perform incredibly well as a result of this, at least in my humble opinion. It has performed incredibly well so far, but it is incredibly volatile. Now, Chainlink is an incredibly volatile asset because it is about demand and demand driven. Okay, you need to pay for the services through Chainlink's token Link, and essentially the higher the demand, the higher the price will push because of the squeeze on the supply as that demand increases. Again, everything comes back down to supply and demand. It's not just about a trend line on a chart. So essentially, if we understand these things and we understand that, during bear markets where demand decreases, then Chainlink is going to be incredibly volatile and it's going to see a significant move to the downside, which we have seen so far. And of course, as demand increases, well, the price action of Link will of course go up, right? We'll see significant surge in price as that demand increases and it soaks up the supply, which brings me into kind of looking at the charts a little bit. So in this video, we're going to focus in on why I think owning at least 1,000 Link could be very, very beneficial for the next bullish market. We're going to take a look at the technicals to kind of get around as to kind of why I think this. So here we have Chainlink on the USDT on the daily chart, and Binance is the data source. Now this one's given us a bit of a simplistic view, okay, over the chart. We have a white line. This is the 200 daily EMA, and then we've got the candlesticks. In fact, we can even remove the stochastic. It's not overly important for this one. So this chart here shows us with a clear move to the downside, right? We can see that from the all-time high up in May of 2021, all the way down to our local lows down here. Now, if I go ahead and grab hold of my price range, we can see and we can acknowledge that the price action has come down 90% from its all-time high. Okay, so it's a pretty decent level, but I still think there's actually a little bit more room to the downside. One of the things that we were just talking about is that as demand increases, you'll see significant surges to the upside in terms of the price action of Chainlink. This is because the demand that is basically there for on-chain, off-chain data on-chain, right? So bringing that off-chain data on-chain, when you see a significant demand for various different protocols, whether that is Ethereum-based, DeFi, or whatever, right? You will see there will be a significant surge to the upside in the amount of Oracle calls, when therefore the result would be the Chainlink price moving to the upside. However, we haven't really had a demand-driven pump, and we know this not only from the on-chain data that I talk about with Bitcoin, but we can also see it right here with Chainlink in the way that we've just been trading and ranging sideways. This is because there's no real demand requesting that off-chain data on-chain. Therefore, price action is reasonably quite static. It's just trading sideways during this kind of bear market rally, essentially. So we can see within this chart here, it's very, very interesting. Now, we're not trending to the downside. We're not going to go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or anything like that. So that's a positive. However, what we could potentially do is a W, X, Y, X, and Z. Okay, and this again would basically look for us to reduce the price down just a fraction as we see this bear market continue a little bit longer, and will give us a great opportunity to dollar cost average into some fantastic positions on Chainlink. Like I said, 1,000 should be a target that I think most people will be aiming for. And you know, at the moment, at the current price at $7.40, that could be setting you back a fair amount, but it's not going to be terribly too difficult in most people's eyes. I think that there's a potential move down towards this kind of low range of around the $4.50 approximately, potentially even a little bit lower. So let me go ahead and talk about that on my next chart. So let's go ahead and bring up this one just here. Now here we can see that we do have this low area down here. I had this scoped out at $2.38.4. This is incredibly low. Okay, this is not an area that we're probably going to move down to, but if we were, it would be a fantastic position to be looking to accumulate a pretty significant position of, well, in Chainlink, right? I think at that point there, most people would be able to accumulate a fair amount of Link. I think, however, that's a bit too low, and we should be thinking a little bit higher in terms of the price charts. If I bring up my smart money concepts here, we can actually take a look at a few of these key areas on the chart. Okay, so you can see how we're ranging in the ranging market. We still have not broken the downward structure. This is visible right here. We can see that we have a break of structure to the downside, and we have no change of characteristic to the upside at the major level. There are a minor one just here, here, and here, but again, these are, as I said, minor, whereas the major ones are the ones that we're really focusing in on here. So we can see that there is still progression to the downside to be had according to the macros, but we can also take a look and see that there's a lot of selling pressure right on this higher end, and there's a little bit of buying pressure here and a little bit down at the discounted range. We currently have a weak low and we have a strong high. This is because we've seen this tested a few times on the high side, and it's been rejection every single time. And we can of course acknowledge that this is a high area of resistance with these overlapping areas of order blocks. Okay, to the downside, we can see it's a weak low. We've only tested it really once over here and once over here. Okay, and it's a weak low because, again, we're just hovering around this equilibrium and failing to kind of keep it at the moment. So all in all, it looks like we have got that progression to the downside, but it's very volatile. As demand comes in, it could push that price up higher. So we'll keep an eye on it. I don't expect it to be an immediate drop to the downside, but I do think prices have to come down, which brings me over to this little block over here. $4.82.5 through to $5.33. This is a fair value gap. This is created through an imbalance in the order books. Basically here, back in, when is this, July 2020, there was a significant amount of buying pressure here that was not met by any selling right in this little area. This is an imbalance between the buyers and the sellers, and essentially price has moved past this area and we haven't come back to retest it. Now, we don't have to come back and retest it, but there's a high probability that we do actually have to come back down and finish it. Now, as part of smart money concepts is that we see these fair value gaps and we do come back down and fill them. You can see that we tapped on this area briefly a couple of times, but we've yet to actually fully fill it. You can also see that there's a couple more down here towards that $2.90 and that slightly lower range of $2.30. Now, why does that sound familiar? Yep, that's where the Elliott Wave theory was also pointing out to us as well. $2.38 on this one, and Smart Money Concepts has this at $2.28. So again, we could argue that maybe Elliott Wave theory and Smart Money Concepts are telling us the same thing with these fair value gaps, these imbalances in the order books. I still feel it's a little bit on the low side. So I'm not going to be holding my breath or kind of thinking that we are definitely going down to those low levels, specifically since there's so many down here that we'll probably never revisit either. I think it's probably more important that we just think about, breaking our current structure and then dollar cost averaging, because either way, from an Elliott Wave theory point of view, if we are to do a W, X, Y, X, and Z, there isn't any more structured moves to the downside at this point. Now, we could argue that maybe we'll have a bigger move to the upside and we can do a bigger corrective structure like this and then really come down into those lows. But again, I don't think I want to hold my breath out for that either. I think essentially we just want to be dollar cost averaging into something that has a really good track record of performing incredibly well. Now, essentially here, in terms of future price predictions, I do think we're going to see some very significant price appreciation on the Link token. I do think there's good progression to the upside to be had here. Now, we can see here that on the 1-to-1 ratio of this bigger structure, if we were to move down towards $2.38, failing to move down this low will just actually lift our target even higher to more towards the $700 range. Now, a lot of this stuff can't be kind of just ignored, can't just be kind of thrown out the water to say that's far too high. Do you know what the market cap will be? Essentially, market cap is completely irrelevant to the equation of what drives price. As I said earlier in the video, it is all about the supply and the demand. Supply and demand drive price, and price dictates the market cap. So focus in on what's going to shrink that supply down and what is going to increase the demand that potentially can hit these higher level targets. I think that Chainlink has a very bright future ahead of it. And if we were to drop down into these lows of around the $2.38 level and then see a significant surge to the upside, well, we are talking very, very significant gains, so around the 15,000% approximately, which would be very, very juicy indeed. Let me know what your thoughts are in terms of price predictions on Chainlink in the comments down below. How high do you think Chainlink could go in the next bullish cycle, considering the amount of integrations that it has in the blockchain space? If you found this useful and informative, smash the like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new, subscribe, and don't forget to join us down in Discord. Guys, until the next one, have a fantastic day.